for the next few minutes, we want to introduce you to a gentleman named Frank Barker from Nothnagle Realty. Frank is a West Side guy. He serves Greece, Gates, Hilton, Parma, Spencerport, Brockport, Ogden, Hamlin, and Chile. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Nice and close to that mic. Got to get you really close to that mic.
Okay.
So hear you. And Frank, I'm going to introduce you as a military guy.
I am.
You have a big military background.
I do. 13 years.
Yeah.
Joined out of high school, 17 years old back in 1998. I can't believe how fast time flies.
And what's on your military resume?
Let's see. Well, I started off driving tanks because I thought that was kind of cool. When I was 17, the recruiter said, "What do you want to do?" He said, "I'm a tanker. It's pretty cool. You can drive tanks." I said, sounds like a plan. Let's do it.
What's it like in one? I've never seen the inside of a tank. What's it like in there? I've always wondered.
A lot of metal and.
Is there a lot of buttons too, or no?
There's a couple buttons.
And flashing lights.
Starting a tank's pretty easy. It's as simple as pushing a button.
Oh, okay.
It's got
Oh, really?
a jet engine. You just push a button.
And how's it?
Really?
How's it? I mean, is there a windshield, or you just look at some sort of heads-up display?
Little periscope that you got to look through when you're driving. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
See, I always
That was a
wondered-
lot easier than flying a helicopter, though.
You flew helicopters
I
too.
did that for a while.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't want a helicopter ride. No, thanks. Well,
I
no.
do.
You do? Oh, no.
Absolutely.
It scares the crap out of me.
But then go right down to Scottsville Road. There's a National Guard base down
Yeah.
there.
Oh, and you
That's where I flew out of for a while.
Okay. And I know you do a lot of work with at Brockport with the ROTC
Yes.
program.
Yep.
So that's
currently
good.
out there working with the recruiting department.
How in the world did you transition to real estate?
Well, it's funny. I actually met a guy while I was in the Army who I noticed there was something different about him, and I started, asking him questions. And he said, "Go read this book." And this book was called Rich Dad Poor Dad. So I went and read this book, and it really stimulated my interest. It's funny is because I actually read it while I was in college. So I was blowing off college work to read this book about buying houses. Mm-hmm. And so I read the book. And then I went out and bought my first duplex. And I said, well, that wasn't too hard, fixed it up. I grew up, fixing up my parents' house and doing stuff around the house. So I said, well, that wasn't too hard. So then I went out and bought 2 or 3 more and then a couple more. And before I knew it, I had a handful of houses. I had like 8 houses. And all my friends were coming to me asking me questions saying, what's going on? How do you do this? How do you do that? And I became the go-to guy before I knew it. And I had a bunch of friends that I was coaching them, making them successful in the real estate investing world. And then it got to the point where so many people kept coming to me asking me questions. They said, you just need to get your license and do this full time. And I started thinking about it. And I was like, I really, truly enjoy what I do. So that's what I'm going to do. I went and got my license, and now I do it full time, and I help other people invest in real estate.
It's great to think you might be good at something, but when then someone tells you should pursue it, I mean, that opens the door.
Yeah, that's great. That's fascinating.
That was kind of like the push that I needed, I think, to get me to do it full time.
You were in the military. And buying properties.
Yeah, actually one of the things I did is whenever I moved somewhere, like I went to flight school in Alabama, and I took the opportunity to assess the market down there and then buy more property down there.
Okay, so you were buying from out of town.
I bought wherever I moved to. I was buying properties. So
So you didn't buy houses in Afghanistan.
No.
Flipping houses in Kabul.
I don't think the real estate market's very good out that way.
I was in Iraq, and you don't want those houses.
No. But are you surprised that it's gone this well in Rochester that you can
believe it or not, you hear all you hear all the bad news about real estate on the TV and on the radio, and the truth is real estate's local, and the Rochester economy and the Rochester market is not a good indication of what's happening in some of the other markets like Florida or California or Nevada that you hear about. It's actually over the last 10 years we've had huge peaks and valleys across the country. Rochester's been pretty stable. It's been one of the most stable markets in the entire country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Sorry, I thought you were going to go next.
No, go ahead. I'm doing all the talking.
I was going to say to hell with the real estate today. Why don't we talk about the military? This tank stuff sounds like fun. I'm sorry, but go ahead.
Well, all right. Back to my next question then ties in. How do you get the money to get into the real estate investment business? Because you're coming right out of college. You're thinking this is a great idea. You must have had a ton of money to get started.
No, I really didn't. Well, luckily I was going to school on the GI Bill, so I had a little bit of money in my pocket. Okay. And back then in the early to mid 2000s, lending was pretty easy. It's a different ball game now. So I mean, you could show up at 5% down and buy a property. Now it's a lot stricter, and you're talking closer to 20-25% down. Yeah. But there's still banks out there that are very friendly money to investors. Right here in town, you got C&B Bank, you got Exceed Federal Credit Union. So there's still banks out there that'll work with you and work with investors. There's another source that people don't even know about, and a lot of people don't even consider, and that's actually your IRA. Most people think their IRA, they just put money into it, and they, what I call, pay and pray. They pray that the that the stocks go up, but you have absolutely no control over it. There's something called a self-directed IRA where you can actually take your money and you can manage it, and you can actually buy properties with it. So you can have a secure source of income that appreciates, that you can control, and you don't have to worry that the market's going to take a dive.
Did you know about this, Pat?
Yeah, under the IRA shelter. It's just, yeah.
That sounds like something that you would have tried. I mean, it's all above board, and it makes sense.
Well, then he wouldn't have tried it.
Well, but even with the market topped 13,000 at one point this past week, and but at the same time, as you say, you have no control over that.
Absolutely. And people who really need to be concerned are the baby boomers, because they really own the majority of the stock market. And, when they start selling off, as they start retiring, they got a lot to lose. So one avenue they can take is to take some of that money, set it aside in a self-directed IRA, and start buying, a couple apartment buildings with it, and then live off that money. And that way, if the other half of their IRA takes a dive, they're not scrambling when they're 65, 70 years old.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Does your military background help you in this business? They tie in at all? I know you're a captain.
Well, I'm always, I'm kind of a go-getter. I'm up every morning. I'm going, and I don't know.
You whip
I love
your
what
clients
I do,
into shape. You have revelry for your clients.
I met a client. I met a client the other day, and she's like, you're the motivation that I needed, because she had a duplex that she had for a while, and she was just settling for having a bad tenant in there that wasn't paying, wasn't taking care of the place. And I said, listen, I'm going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. You need to get rid of this tenant. You need to clean this place up, and you need to sell it, because this house is not for you at this time. She said, you're absolutely right. Wow. I've been waiting for you to come along and tell me that.
Awesome.
So rather than coddle the client, you straighten them out.
Direct approach.
You should be a property manager as well for other people. Then you could slap around the tenants for the landlord. That's what I would appreciate. I'd pay you to do that.
I would like to slap around some tenants.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they have rights too, and laws protect them.
Don't worry about that.
Don't worry about that. That's insignificant.
How about, I want to ask you really quickly, you in social media, how are you involved in that?
I'm the typical guy. I check Facebook a couple times a day, probably more than I need to. I got a Twitter account. I don't really use it. I think I might have posted 1 or 2 tweets ever. I have a YouTube channel.
How about this new one, Pinterest? Have you heard about this?
Yeah, I've heard about it like once or twice, and I don't know. I'm going to check it out today and see what it's all about.
It'll be good because it's like Twitter for photos. It's very visual. So if you've got listings and stuff, you could put them up there, and other people can take that picture and pin it to their thing. And,
oh, really?
Yeah, and it's kind of like this whole community. And right now, the service is invitation only, because they're piloting it. But it's becoming so rapidly popular.
Kind of like how Facebook started out?
Absolutely. And there isn't any room for text, so it's not like you can go on there and snap a picture of a house that you're listing and go, call me for details. So you have to be up to snuff in order to get people's attention.
You're a pretty savvy guy.
It's another way of marketing yourself. And we've spoken to real estate agent after real estate agent, and not that you're not doing what you're supposed to do, but social media is huge for people like you. Twitter, Facebook, that's where people are going. They want you to be as accessible as you possibly can.
Well, clearly someone invited you to join Pinterest.
Yes.
So if you invite me,
I'll invite you, and you can invite him.
I'll invite you. I'll invite you. I'll invite you too, Pat.
Okay.
Pat, do you want to be invited?
I don't
left
care.
out.
Yeah, sure. Invite me.
I'll invite you, Pat.
Okay.
Frank Barker, what's your website? I know you have a couple of them.
Realestatefrank.com.
Is that the one the preferable one?
That's the preferable website.
Realestatefrank.com.
Yep, realestatefrank.com.
We're getting it up on...
or you can email me at frank@realestatefrank.com.
Okay, well, you're the only one there.
That's right.
That makes sense. We have a link to that website on our Property Source Radio website as well. Not too harmful, was it? Not too painful?
No, not at all.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us, Frank, and good luck with your work at Nothnagle and with your...
Well, I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, we'll have you on again sometime.
Okay, thanks a lot.